Los Angeles in June 1994 was alive with its usual hum, traffic flowing, neon signs flickering, palm trees swaying under the warm night air. Yet beneath the glamour and gloss of Hollywood life, darkness waited, ready to shatter the calm. In a quiet, affluent neighborhood near Brentwood, a scene would unfold that would shock the nation and ignite a media frenzy unlike anything seen before. Nicole Brown Simpson's condo stood still and silent. Inside, the laughter and chatter of previous evenings had vanished, replaced by the sinister stillness of death. Moments later, emergency calls would report the bodies of Nicole and Ronald Goldman lying in a pool of blood on the walkway outside the building. Brutal, unforgiving, the scene was a nightmare made real. Police officers arrived to find evidence scattered like a chaotic puzzle, a trail of blood leading from the victims to a nearby street, footprints pressed into the dirt, and a single glove, abandoned yet central to what would soon become a saga of national obsession. Across town, O.J. Simpson existed in a world that felt galaxies away from the grim reality of Brentwood. The former football superstar, actor, and public figure was larger than life, a man who had captivated audiences with charm, wit, and athletic prowess. Fans adored him. The press celebrated him. Yet within hours, O.J. would move from household hero to prime suspect in a crime that seemed incomprehensible. How could a man so beloved be tied to such a horrifying act? The LAPD launched their investigation with urgency. Detectives quickly gathered forensic evidence, combing through blood, fibers, and fingerprints. They discovered a chilling trail that led them inexorably toward O.J. Simpson. Questions swirled. Was it possible that a man who had built his life around fame and public admiration could be capable of murder? The nation would soon demand answers. Then came the moment that would forever cement itself in television history, the slow-speed chase. O.J., facing the weight of imminent arrest, failed to surrender peacefully. Instead, he climbed into his white Ford Bronco, accompanied by his friend Al Cowlings, and the city erupted into a spectacle. Police pursued him at a crawl, weaving through Los Angeles freeways as millions of viewers across the country watched live on television. The scene was surreal. A man once celebrated as a sports hero, now fleeing the law on the city's asphalt arteries, helicopters circling overhead, cameras capturing every turn. Streets became theater, the chase became global obsession. Viewers were transfixed. For the first time in living memory, celebrity and crime collided so publicly that the line between entertainment and horror blurred. Back at Brentwood, the story of the crime continued to unfold. The scene of the murders revealed more than just physical evidence. It hinted at domestic tension and troubled relationships. Neighbors whispered about arguments between Nicole and O.J., their fears crystallized into a chilling what-if that now had a tragic answer. Each detail, every small clue would later become pivotal in the courtroom. The narrative was forming a bridge between the private chaos of domestic life and the public theater of celebrity culture, and America was watching with rapt attention. As the night deepened, newsrooms exploded. Reporters scrambled to file stories, their voices tinged with disbelief and urgency. Photographs of the crime scene circulated in print and on television, shocking viewers who struggled to reconcile the horror of murder with the allure of the man accused. The juxtaposition was jarring, the gleaming star of sports and film now shadowed by a gruesome act that left two lives cruelly ended. Every news anchor, every newspaper, and every cable channel began to treat the story more than a crime. It was a societal event, a reflection of the nation itself. The public reaction was instantaneous and polarized. Fans of O.J. refused to believe he could commit such an act. Skeptics saw the evidence as undeniable. Communities across Los Angeles debated in living rooms, offices, and bars. The questions were everywhere. Could someone so famous be a killer? Was justice truly blind, or would fame shield a man from the law? The story tapped into deep social currents, race, celebrity, and the American obsession with both. People didn't just want to know what happened, they wanted to understand the man behind the headlines. Inside Simpson's world, the pressure mounted. Lawyers prepared for the inevitable arrest, strategizing, analyzing, and bracing for a storm that would eclipse anything in modern criminal history. O.J. himself became a figure of contradictory emotions, the confidence of a public figure, the anxiety of a man confronted with the full force of the law, and the uncertainty of a private individual facing public judgment before the trial had even begun. Each step, each decision was now magnified under the national microscope. By the next morning, Los Angeles had transformed. Streets were abuzz with journalists and camera crews. Helicopters hovered like hawks. The Bronco chase replayed endlessly on television screens, a surreal prelude to the legal drama to come. Citizens discussed the case in hushed tones and open debates alike. Across the nation, viewers were gripped by a mixture of horror, fascination, and disbelief. The murder of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman had already become more than a crime. It was a story that would define a decade, a cultural touchstone that revealed as much about society as it did about the events themselves. As Part 1 closes, the stage is set for the courtroom drama, the media spectacle, and the societal reckoning that would follow. The murder is no longer just a case, it is a lens through which America will examine fame, race, domestic violence, and justice. The first chapter ends with tension unresolved, the nation captivated, and the question lingering. How could the golden boy of Los Angeles become the accused in a murder that shocked the world? The courtroom had become a theater, a stage where law, fame, and raw human emotion collided in ways that no one could have predicted. By mid-trial, it was clear that the O.J. Simpson case was no ordinary legal proceeding. Each day delivered moments that gripped the nation, electrified television audiences, and transformed justice into something much larger, a reflection of American society itself. One of the most dramatic moments arrived with the infamous gloves. 2 leather gloves, bloodied and ominous, were brought before the jury. The prosecution argued that they were a critical link between O.J. and the murders, but the defense had orchestrated a spectacle that would enter American legend. O.J. Simpson was asked to try them on. The courtroom watched in tense silence as he struggled to pull the leather over his hands. The gloves appeared too tight, too small. Johnny Cochran seized the moment with the line that would echo forever: "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." The reaction was instantaneous. Journalists scribbled notes furiously. Television anchors repeated the line with awe. Viewers at home gasped in disbelief. Which should have been a technical demonstration of evidence, became a powerful, almost theatrical moment that shifted the trial's momentum. But the glove was just one symbol among many in a trial already brimming with tension. Witnesses continued to recount chilling details. Neighbors spoke of arguments and moments of tension between Nicole Brown Simpson and O.J., painting a portrait of a domestic life fraught with fear, jealousy, and unresolved conflict. Former employees and friends described incidents of domestic abuse and controlling behavior, revealing glimpses of a man the public had long only seen on television screens or in sports stadiums. These personal testimonies added layers of drama, forcing the audience to grapple with the complex reality behind the headlines. The trial did not unfold in isolation. Los Angeles itself was a character in the story, its streets simmering with unresolved racial tension from recent events like the Rodney King riots. The defense highlighted these social fractures, suggesting that systemic bias within the LAPD had influenced the investigation. Every argument, every accusation became more than just legal maneuvering. It was a reflection of deep societal issues. Jurors, witnesses, and viewers alike were confronted not only with questions of guilt, but with broader questions about justice, race, and power in America. Forensic evidence, once the backbone of the prosecution's case, became a battleground of interpretation. DNA analysis, blood patterns, and fingerprint tests were examined and dissected with painstaking detail. The defense attacked the collection methods, the possibility of contamination, and the credibility of the investigators. Each expert witness became a dramatic figure in their own right, presenting technical evidence that could tip the balance of justice one way or the other. The courtroom was electric with anticipation. Every piece of testimony became a potential turning point in the trial. Media coverage amplified every moment, transforming the trial into a national obsession. Analysts debated strategy and motive, dissected each body language cue, and speculated endlessly about the outcome. Talk shows, tabloid papers, and 24-hour news networks ensured that no detail was ignored. Ordinary Americans became experts in forensic science and legal procedure, arguing the case in living rooms and offices across the country. The O.J. Simpson trial was no longer just a legal proceeding. It was a cultural phenomenon, an unavoidable spectacle that reflected both society's fascination with crime and its obsession with celebrity. The courtroom drama intensified as the defense and prosecution clashed over evidence and credibility. Each side accused the other of manipulation, bias, or negligence. Moments of tension became explosive confrontations. Johnny Cochran and Marcia Clark sparred with the intensity of dueling maestros, each performing in a courtroom that had become a theater of suspense. The jury, caught between meticulously presented facts and emotionally charged arguments, was under constant pressure. The nation watched as ordinary people navigated extraordinary circumstances, forced to make life-altering decisions in a world of media scrutiny. Race and social context continued to shape the trial's narrative. Communities across Los Angeles and the country interpreted events through the lens of long-standing social divisions. For some, O.J. Simpson was a man targeted by systemic injustice. For others, he was a man whose wealth and fame should not shield him from the consequences of his actions. These conflicting perspectives fueled public debate, making the trial a lens through which Americans confronted their own beliefs about race, justice, and morality. Amid the testimony and analysis, the trial revealed human vulnerability on every side. Witnesses trembled as they recounted intimate details. Lawyers exhibited both confidence and anxiety, aware that every move was under intense scrutiny. O.J. Simpson, once the golden boy of Los Angeles, appeared in public and on camera under the immense weight of suspicion and expectation. Every facial expression, every gesture, every pause was dissected in real time by millions of observers. The trial had become an epic narrative, its drama unfolding both in the courtroom and across the living rooms of America. As the trial progressed, the stakes only grew higher. The defense's strategy to exploit public fear of systemic bias, combined with dramatic courtroom theatrics, kept the audience captivated. The prosecution's meticulous presentation of evidence maintained suspense, creating a tension that seemed to stretch endlessly. Each day, the trial balanced precariously between chaos and order, with the outcome uncertain and the stakes impossibly high. By the time Part 3 closes, the trial has transformed fully into a cultural event. The gloves, the testimonies, the social context, and the media frenzy have all converged into a spectacle that holds the nation spellbound. The courtroom is no longer merely a place for justice. It is a stage where celebrity, crime, race, and society collide. Suspense hangs in the air as the world waits for the next dramatic turn, the final act that will decide the fate of O.J. Simpson and leave an indelible mark on the history of American justice. The story's tension reaches its peak here, leaving audiences on edge. Every revelation, every cross-examination, and every moment of doubt is designed to grip the reader, making them desperate to know what happens next. the verdict, the public reaction, and the aftermath that will define the trial's legacy for generations to come. October 3rd, 1995 dawned like any other day in Los Angeles, yet beneath the calm veneer, the city, and indeed the entire nation, held its collective breath. Inside the Los Angeles County Superior Court, the jury prepared to deliver a verdict that would reverberate far beyond the courtroom walls. For over a year, the world had followed every moment of the trial: the murders, the Bronco chase, the gloves, the heated testimonies, the media spectacle, and the emotional tug-of-war that had gripped millions of Americans. Now the question loomed larger than ever. Would O.J. Simpson be held accountable for the deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, or would the defense's arguments and theatrics prevail? The courtroom was tense with anticipation. Reporters leaned forward, cameras clicked incessantly, and the jurors, ordinary citizens burdened with extraordinary responsibility, carried the weight of a nation's expectations. O.J. Simpson sat stoically, an enigma of celebrity and anxiety, his life's trajectory resting on the decision of 12 strangers. Lawyers on both sides whispered quietly, eyes fixed on the jury box, each silently praying that their arguments had prevailed. The silence before the announcement was almost unbearable, a collective pause that made the room feel suspended in time. When the foreperson finally spoke, the words cut through the tension like a knife. "We, the jury, find the defendant, O.J. Simpson, not guilty." The courtroom erupted in a cacophony of emotions. Some wept openly, overcome with relief or disbelief. Others shouted, their voices raw with anger and frustration. Cameras captured the stunned faces of journalists, the muted joy of O.J.'s supporters, and the silent despair of the prosecution team. Across the country, viewers reacted simultaneously in living rooms, offices, and public spaces, their emotions mirroring the intensity of the moment in Los Angeles. The verdict shattered expectations and ignited a wave of polarized reactions. In some communities, particularly among African Americans, the decision was seen as a triumph, a rare victory against a system long perceived as biased. For many, O.J.'s acquittal represented more than one man's fate. It symbolized hope that justice could sometimes favor those marginalized by society. In contrast, much of the white population and other observers perceived the outcome as a miscarriage of justice, a stark example of how wealth, fame, and celebrity could manipulate a legal system that promised fairness for all. Streets became forums for debate, and conversations spilled into workplaces, schools, and homes. The nation was divided in a way rarely seen outside of political crises. For O.J. Simpson, the verdict was the beginning of a new chapter, though one far from peaceful. Freed from criminal conviction, he remained under the intense scrutiny of the public eye. His life became a paradoxical mix of celebrity and infamy. The acquittal did not erase the public's fascination with him, it only intensified it. Civil suits followed, most notably the wrongful death case brought by the families of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, which would eventually result in a judgment against him. Even years later, O.J.'s name remained inseparable from the trial, the murders, and the cultural upheaval they caused. The trial's aftermath extended beyond O.J. himself. For the legal system, it was a watershed moment. The Simpson case exposed the power of media to shape public perception of justice and revealed how high-profile trials could transform law into theater. Lawyers, judges, and police officers found their actions scrutinized more intensely than ever before. The case also reshaped forensic science in the public imagination, making DNA evidence a household term and prompting discussions about the reliability, collection, and presentation of scientific data in courtrooms. The media landscape changed irrevocably. The Simpson trial proved that television could make legal proceedings into a form of entertainment, drawing viewers in a way that blurred the line between news and drama. Networks competed for every exclusive image, every soundbite, every analysis of body language and courtroom strategy. Shows dissected every argument, replayed every moment, and speculated on every possible outcome. The trial was no longer just about one crime, it became a mirror reflecting society's obsession with celebrity, scandal, and human drama. Beyond the courtroom and the cameras, the trial forced America to confront difficult social truths. Domestic violence, once considered a private matter, was thrust into national conversation. The relationship between fame and accountability became a topic of heated debate. Racial inequality in the justice system was examined, criticized, and debated in public forums. Communities wrestled with their own biases and assumptions, and millions of Americans were forced to reconsider what justice truly meant in a world where celebrity, race, and media influence could intersect so dramatically. O.J. Simpson's trial also left a lasting imprint on culture. Books, documentaries, and dramatizations would revisit every detail, every strategy, every testimony, and every twist for decades to come. Phrases like, "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit," entered the lexicon, immortalizing the drama in the annals of popular culture. The case became a reference point in discussions about celebrity influence, legal strategy, and the power of the media. Even today, when people discuss the intersection of fame, crime, and justice, the O.J. Simpson trial remains an unavoidable example. As the dust settled, the nation slowly came to terms with the magnitude of what had occurred. The story of O.J. Simpson, Nicole Brown Simpson, and Ronald Goldman was no longer just a news item. It had become a narrative about human complexity, societal fault lines, and the fragility of justice. The trial revealed not only what had happened that fateful night in Brentwood, but also how the structures of power, wealth, and media could influence perception and outcome. The legacy of the case continues to provoke discussion, analysis, and reflection. In retrospect, the trial serves as both cautionary tale and cultural milestone. It demonstrates the extraordinary power of fame, the pitfalls of media sensationalism, and the profound challenges of delivering justice in a world of celebrity obsession. More than that, it reminds society that crime, tragedy, and human imperfection do not exist in isolation. They ripple through communities, influence national consciousness, and leave legacies that persist long after the verdict is delivered. As Part 4 concludes, the story of O.J. Simpson and the trial that captivated the world reaches its formal end, but its resonance continues indefinitely. For America, it was a moment that tested the legal system, challenged social perceptions, and forever changed the relationship between crime, media, and celebrity. The verdict may have been delivered, but the questions it raised about justice, morality, and society remain with us still. The courtroom of the Los Angeles County Superior Court was unlike any other. Cameras clicked, lights flashed, and reporters jostled for position, each determined to capture the first moments of what the world would soon call the trial of the century. On one side, O.J. Simpson sat, a man whose charm, fame, and public image had long defined him. On the other, the weight of justice, embodied by Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden, loomed over him. Every breath, every glance, every whisper became news. The trial was no longer confined to the courtroom. It was broadcast live, dissected by pundits, debated in homes, and dissected in offices from coast to coast. The prosecution's opening statement set the tone for the legal battle ahead. Marcia Clark's voice, firm and deliberate, painted a chilling portrait of the crime. She spoke of blood evidence linking O.J. Simpson to the murders, the footprints at the crime scene, and the timeline that placed him at the center of a night that ended in tragedy. Every detail was calculated to anchor the jury and the nation in the reality of the murders, leaving no room for doubt that the case would be difficult for the defense to challenge. But the defense was equally formidable. Johnny Cochran, smooth, commanding, and media savvy, led the team with a strategy that would captivate the public imagination. Robert Shapiro, Robert Kardashian, and F. Lee Bailey rounded out a legal dream team designed to counter the evidence with spectacle and precision. The defense's focus was clear: undermine the credibility of the police, highlight alleged mishandling of evidence, and tap into deeper social tensions simmering in Los Angeles. Every statement, every argument, every media interaction was crafted to sway not just the jury, but a nation watching with bated breath. Witness testimonies began to paint a story far more complicated than a simple case of guilt or innocence. Neighbors described heated arguments, domestic violence, and moments of tension between O.J. and Nicole. Former employees revealed insights into the couple's life behind closed doors, humanizing the victims while also complicating the narrative around the accused. The courtroom became a stage where personal drama met legal strategy, where the intimate details of lives once public only in glimpses now became headline-making evidence. Forensic evidence dominated the proceedings. Blood samples, DNA analysis, and fingerprint tests formed the backbone of the prosecution's case. Marcia Clark and her team meticulously laid out each connection, each strand of evidence tying O.J. to the scene. The defense countered with pointed questions, casting doubt on the collection methods, the chain of custody, and the possibility of contamination. Every expert, every lab report, every technical detail became a dramatic turning point, keeping both jury and audience on edge. Television networks amplified every moment. Analysts debated the meaning of each witness statement, scrutinized body language, and speculated on motives. The trial became an omnipresent part of American life. Families gathered around televisions, offices paused for updates, and conversations in public spaces revolved endlessly around O.J. Simpson. The story was no longer just about crime. It was a cultural phenomenon that exposed the intersections of fame, justice, and media spectacle. One of the early flashpoints came with the introduction of the gloves. 2 leather gloves, bloodied and ominous, became central to the trial. The prosecution presented them as damning evidence, linking O.J. directly to the murders. The defense, however, orchestrated a dramatic moment. O.J. would try on the gloves in court. The audience, both in the courtroom and at home, leaned forward as the scene unfolded, a tense, almost theatrical moment that would become one of the most iconic in American legal history. Cochran's now famous line, "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit," echoed in courtrooms and living rooms alike, a rhetorical flourish that encapsulated the drama, suspense, and stakes of the trial. As testimonies continued, racial tensions within Los Angeles subtly surfaced in the courtroom. The city was still grappling with the aftermath of the Rodney King riots, and these social undercurrents became impossible to ignore. Jurors, witnesses, and viewers alike were reminded that the trial existed not just in isolation, but within a society deeply divided by race and social experience. The defense leveraged this context, suggesting systemic bias within the LAPD, while the prosecution emphasized impartiality and the universality of justice. The tension between the courtroom and the streets, between law and society, added layers of complexity to the narrative. The media's role in shaping perception grew more pronounced as the trial progressed. Talk shows dissected arguments, tabloids published every detail, and 24-hour news cycles kept the case alive around the clock. For many Americans, the trial was no longer a legal proceeding. It was a daily, unavoidable spectacle, blending the thrill of courtroom drama with the familiarity of celebrity culture. Analysts argued over strategy, debated motives, and speculated on outcomes, amplifying every twist and turn in real time. Every day, the stakes escalated. The defense and prosecution engaged in legal sparring over the admissibility of evidence, the credibility of witnesses, and the interpretation of forensic science. The jury, caught between meticulously presented facts and the emotionally charged spectacle, became the focal point of national attention. O.J. Simpson, once a figure of adulation and entertainment, now navigated a world defined by suspicion, tension, and the unrelenting gaze of the public. Part 2 closes as the courtroom battles intensify, each side laying the foundation for dramatic confrontations yet to come. The trial is no longer simply a legal contest. It is a story of fame, race, justice, and society's obsession with crime. With each witness, each argument, and each televised moment, America remains captivated, hanging on the edges of seats in anticipation of what will come next, the shocking twists, iconic courtroom moments, and ultimate reckoning that will define the Simpson saga for generations.